Oh, I'm up super early in the morning looking crazy. But this book, okay? First of all, this book is called Researches, Philosophical and Antiquarian Concerning the Aboriginal History of America. You're gonna see me make a lot of information about this book because you find it in the Library of Congress. That's number one. Second of all, what makes this book such an important source is really a secondary source full of primary sources backed by a .gov website. But whenever he states anything, he puts in parentheses an actual voyage name and the page number where he found it. That is a first-hand primary account that he actually read and tells you the page number it's on. So each one of these, Barton's New Views, the description of Ohio on page 152, Nuttall's Travels, page 83, where it says the complexion of the Quapaws, like that of the Choctaws and the Creeks, is dark and destitute of anything like the Cooper's tinge. Cooper's means copper tinge. But keep going, you got the history of Mexico, page 104. So you notice he places the primary sources in a time where video wasn't available. Now we put primary sources in your face, right, on video, but in a book all you can do is list where you got the information. And he goes completely against the grain. That's the fourth thing that's important. Completely against the grain from everybody saying that America was not a black planet, or not planet, but was not a black continent, and it was full of black so-called Negro tribes all over North and South America and Central. But this video right here is going to focus on a section talking about food. Now, we've had people try to tell us stuff like the sweet potato and the yams came from Africa. And so like right here, we're going to talk more about the food. But here recently, there was an argument of, did sweet potatoes and yams, or the word yams, come from Americas? Now they try to say that we had sweet potatoes, but the African influence is because they came over here and called it a yam. But we're gonna look here and see what they say about that so-called thing. But on top of that, let's look at this about cassava, because this is gonna mention several things. We got pumpkin squashes, watermelons, all that. A lot of this stuff is in the Americas. It's from the Americas. But let's look. Nothing but great inattention could have referred the introduction of the cassava to the importation of Negroes from America. That statement means that nothing but idiots, people who just would love to just make up stuff. That's what inattention. Like, you ain't paying no attention. Nothing but some nigga paying no attention could have came up with a story that said that the cassava was imported from some Negroes of Africa. Why does he say that? Because Peter Martyr describes it as cultivated in Haiti when Columbus first discovered this land, and Cabral observed it in Brazil when he first landed on the coast in AD 1500. Pigafetta and all the earlier travelers, so there's multiple different travelers, he listed the name of a few of them and some years, describe it as being extensively cultivated in Brazil and Paraguay. So at this point we know that cassava, which is used for their fufu, okay, is completely something that's from the Americas. But let's look at this. The Indians of both North and South America cultivated also several kinds of beans, peas, and several species of cucurbita, which is such as pumpkins, squash, cymelins, watermelons, okay, and etc. But two things to take from that. One, yes, watermelons we cultivated. Peas, beans, pumpkins, squashes, all of that. But you remember that milpa planting system? They talk about the corn above here. That was one of the first things they talked about. But you also have beans and squashes, right? This is the third book, an old book, that I've seen reference the milpa planting system without calling it the milpa planting system. Because what they see is just a bunch of beans, squash, and maize growing everywhere, okay? But let's keep going. The sunflower was also partially cultivated for its seed. We be popping them sunflower seeds with the ranch and the barbecue all the time. But anyways, let's keep going. Which were eaten after being parched and beat into a meal between two stones. As far as Maryland, they raised the sweet potato, Fulvus Baptist. As far as Maryland, okay? And they said Columbus. So that's early. That's what these fools be talking about. Well, if you can't talk about before Columbus, then it's afterwards, and then blah. Shut up. Columbus found pumpkins, milpa planting system, that's squash, beans. He also found maize, so that's milpa. Sweet potatoes. Columbus found sweet potatoes. That's the first person y'all say came in this bitch. And yams. Wow, isn't that funny? He found that they made out of, called them yams. He didn't say that per se, but they found something called dysphoria versus and sweet potatoes, and they distinctly say they're different. But they found them both here. Anyways, in the West India Islands, they were also cultivated in Mexico, though, and in various parts of South America, though it is perhaps impossible to assign their limits. Impossible. Let's keep going to a couple of others. In Mexico, the natives cultivated other plants and roots and circumscribed use, which will be noticed generally when treating of that people. They also raise certain vegetable condiments as peppers, tomatoes. How many times have people been saying the tomatoes come from the Americas, okay? Which mark the superiority of the social condition. In the mountains in the New Granada, now the Republic of Colombia and Peru and Chile, certain tribes cultivated quinoa. We had quinoa. All that healthy shit you get at the stove. You know what I'm saying? I started eating a lot of quinoa when I was vegan long ago, but a species of Chindopium, whatever, but it was cultivated here, and they would sometimes call it rice or Peruvian rice. Then you also have the common potato, okay? Was cultivated according to Humboldt, and there's the source, page number, at the time of his discovery in New Granada, Quito, Peru, and Chile, on all the Cordillera and in the Andes from the 40th degree of south and the 5th degree of the latitude. It seems certain that it was not known in Mexico before the conquest of Cortez, okay, in Chile, and basically but yeah, the potato. Now let's read this. Oh, one other thing, they also had rye and barley. Rye and barley is used a lot to make beer, okay, and to do other stuff too, but you use a lot of barley. Well, let's look at this little footnote up under here. Though it is a common tradition that potatoes were indigenous in Virginia, or rather North Carolina, and that Sir Walter Raleigh carried them thence to England. The opinion most prevalent among the learned is that Sir Walter Raleigh received them from the South America in the first instance. The roots called opinet, which are described by Harriet, there's his voyage, agree, however, in description with potatoes. And basically what I want you to get to is they wouldn't have potatoes over there. They had a whole potato famine and other stuff. It was Sir Walter Raleigh that came over here, got some, and they really said that they came from South America. But they have been cultivated all the way up throughout the whole, even as far as up, I think it says Maryland going up. So these people have been playing with us. Again, this book is in the Library of Congress. So they know about this, and it goes against the grain. Just to end this off, it says in the first chapter, it talks about the complexion of the Indians. The third chapter is talking about the food of the Indians. So the complexion, they say, though America possesses some dark brown men approaching to black, yet it has almost been universally believed that there were no Aboriginal blacks or Negroes found on this continent. I read this on the live stream. They tried to stop there and be like, ooh, look at that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, nigga, you gotta keep reading. Right here it says, but from considering the peculiar circumstances under which a black race was found in the North America, I hold it more probable that the common opinion, that no niggas was here, is erroneous. It is false. It is wrong. And then he goes into how the Californians were black, and I don't have much time, and how they when they saw some other blacks that came here from Vizcaíno's voyage, they pretty much said, hey, we live in common harmony with people of your color. Like he basically says black Indians were here and we cultivated all the food, and the Library of Congress based on